A seller has recently put a whole bunch of these up for sale, brand new in box. So I purchased one, and let's take a look at this thing together.
So like many of you, the first time I ever heard about the NABU computer was on Adrian's video from back in November 2022. Now in the description of his video, he had the link to the listing on eBay for these, and I hesitated for a little bit because I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to get one. And by the time that I did want to get one, they were all gone. Or they were available, but the listing had none available. I didn't check in for a while on things, but I noticed on Twitter on around February 5th that they were available and the guy was selling them directly on his website. So at that point, I went ahead and ordered one. And I let Steven over at RetroCombs know that they were available, and he ordered one as well. Looks like the NABU's here. Let's get it downstairs and see what it's all about.
I needed to find a place to unbox this. I've been doing a bunch of rearranging for some 3D printers recently, and my work table was covered in junk I had to get rid of.
Why is cleanliness so unpopular?
So I took a little time to clear this table, and I had a good spot ready to go.
Joystick controllers are actually here, so you can pull this to you. There we go.
Now I got this over to the workbench, got it opened up to take a peek inside, and everything was looking pretty good. My next worry was the dreaded fan. Every YouTube video I'd seen of someone working with a NABU so far had just about all had complaints about the fan, so I was worried, but I fired this one up to listen. It seems like I lucked out. This sounds pretty quiet to me. I don't see anything hanging up. Now I moved on to making a cable. There are tons of pinouts, and it seems like I was getting a little confused about which order was from the front versus from the back, but I gathered my things up and started going to town. I grabbed the same D-Tech RS422 adapter that everyone else had from YouTube, a scrap piece of Cat 5, and some 5-pin DIN connectors. The first software I tried out was DJ software from NABU.ca. Pretty straightforward Windows installation. Just have to fire it up here and pick the COM port that goes along with how your RS422 was detected. So I tried this out on a couple of different Windows machines I had, and I actually didn't have much luck with it working at all. I was always getting that dreaded adapter failure.
Maddening! I'm at my wit's end. I can't take.
I left the workbench frustrated, so I went to take a break to watch some TV, looked at YouTube, and actually looked for some NABU clips and saw Chris Masto actually had a live stream going then, and he was exploring around using the direct TTL connection on his NABU, trying to do it later. But it was awesome to see that, and it gave me the idea to potentially try the same thing. It put that seed in my head. When I started my next attempts at making things to work, I started out making a mess with some Deoxit just to see if I could get lucky, and maybe it was the contacts on the serial chip. No dice. Steven let me try his cable and adapter. I took a moment, then remembered a goal I'd kind of set about a year ago, and I mentioned it in an old video. I also would like to maybe do some more intelligent type troubleshooting instead of just throwing parts and stuff. I want to get out my logic analyzer, maybe even talk about getting a scope and do the right kind of reading and research so I'll know what I should be seeing where on what pins. So maybe I can make a more intelligent approach to looking at which chips may actually be bad instead of just shotgunning around on things. So I checked out Chris's video again, and I also looked up the pinouts for this serial chip and made note of receive being 20 and the transmit being pin 25. I connected my scope to pin 20 and then tried to load software again so I could kind of see what the chip was seeing on its receive side after the RS422 circuitry. I'm no expert and I've got tons to learn, but to me those little spikes didn't look right, like something's not quite right. I then rounded up my little cheap logic analyzer that I've had for a while and loaded up some software on a Linux machine and went to analyze the signals I saw on the receive and transmit side of things at the serial chip. What I captured on the transmit side looked as expected. It was the NABU PC sending out the hex 83, which is what it will do constantly until things kind of get going. I seem to only be getting zeros when sniffing on the receive side. I never saw any other data really trying to come down the line. So that really made me suspect the RS422 stuff, and I wanted to go back and try to duplicate in a way what Chris did in his testing by trying to go directly to the chip. I wanted to keep my approach to trying this out as simple as possible. I didn't want to bother with a breadboard or anything, so I grabbed some of these headers like this from Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. My main goal was to isolate pins 20 and 25 as simply as possible to do my verification test. Remove the chip again. On the one side, I just broke off the last pin to leave the receive pin free. On the transmit side, the headers are positioned so that pin 25 stays open. Then I stuck the serial chip back in to the socket. Here's another shot showing how the transmit pin's left hanging. And then we'll have this shot where receive pin 20 is shown how it's left hanging, so it won't be connected to the rest of the circuitry. And I didn't have a standalone TTL USB adapter handy, but if you didn't know, in a pinch you can use an Arduino as a TTL adapter. You just have to jumper the ground and reset buttons, so that keeps the microprocessor asleep. And then the serial adapter side of the board essentially passes right through to the TX RX pins of the Arduino, and you can use it just like a TTL adapter. Now, one quick thing I wanted to mention. This chip is 5-volt TTL. If you're using an adapter, make sure that yours will either auto sense and work with 5 volts, or if it has a jumper to switch between 5 volt and 3, that you are okay, because you may damage a TTL adapter if it's only set up to work with 3 volts. Just a heads up there.
Now let's give it a try. So there we go, we know that works now.
It was great to see this working finally, after all this time, working consistently. I wanted to see if I could make DJs work, and ran into a little bit of headache, but also, thanks to Chris and his video, I realized that I think currently, at the time of this recording, DJ software requires flow control to be enabled. Now I think the DTEC RS422 adapter must ignore that, and that's how that's working otherwise. But if you are going straight to the chip, you have to take that into account. And the easiest way to do that, if you have an adapter that exposes the CTS and RTS, you can just jumper those together, and that will essentially let things work okay. Now, my Arduino doesn't really easily expose the CTS RTS, so I dug out another adapter I had handy, and you can see where I jumpered the RTS CTS there on it, and then I gave DJ software a try. With flow control taken care of, DJ software worked like a champ. So now I would really like to get things working in a way back how it did via the adapter port. So I'm really focusing on this U12, which is the receive side of the RS422, where it converts the RS422 level signals into TTL 5-volt signals. I really think that may be where the problem is. After the main prep work was already completed for this video, I went back and hooked the scope up, and without using the internet adapter software, I used putty and just sent a steady stream of A's, just holding down the A key, to the NABU PC. On the left you can see what the signal looked like coming in the RS422 way, and on the right you can see what it looks like directly on the chip. So something is definitely up with that U12 IC, I believe. So I've ordered one of these chips from Mouser, and when that gets here, I think I'm going to do another video showing where I replace that thing. Hey, if you've made it this far, thanks for watching, and NABU NABU.